Hello, welcome to the first edition of the Don't Talk Right podcast. I am Randy Horton, and today I'm talking to Don Dolby from Buxton. Don and I are both come from a poetry background. We're both poets, but we both have an interest in songwriting. So welcome, Don.
Thank you, Randy. I'm honored to be your first guest and be interested to have this conversation.
Why don't we start by just talking a little bit about how you got interested in songwriting and that sort of thing.
Okay, well, as you said, I mainly write poetry, and I've written poetry on and off for most of my life, sometimes with large gaps between spouts of writing and so on. But the first attempt at songwriting was probably 20 or more years ago, when I was good friends with a lead guitarist and singer in a rhythm and blues band, and just talking to him, decided to try and write some lyrics as opposed to writing poetry, and that never really went anywhere, but that was the beginning of it.
Did he record some of those? Because I know some of your poems have been recorded, or some of your songs have been recorded.
Yes, those same songs were recorded a good few years later, actually. I used to go to an evening we lived near Loughborough at the time, Shepshed, and went to a local folk night, a sing around, and I asked some of the musicians there if they were interested in putting some music to some of my poems, and two of them did, and I've got some recordings on file of my lyrics put to music, which was good.
Very good. I heard them and enjoyed them. They're really good. How do you think it's different? Because you said some of them you wrote poetry, then you actually tried to write songs for those. What do you see as the difference between writing lyrics and writing a poem?
I guess it's trying to write shorter, catchier lines, even though there are plenty of songs and good songs which are much more lyrical than that, especially storytelling songs. But that was my approach, to try and write shorter, catchier lines that would actually make it a song, and then try and introduce a chorus if it was appropriate as well.
I think there was an anecdote from Iggy Pop that Soupy Sales. I think people in the UK don't recognize the name Soupy Sales. Any American would know the name, but Soupy Sales sort of challenged him to write songs of no more than 25 words. So I think he wrote a lot of his songs trying to stay 25 words or fewer. So definitely bought into the whole idea that they should be shorter and catchier. And it worked, I guess.
Yes, yeah. I mean, more recently, sort of a turn back to songwriting a bit, and I've actually written a poem version and a song version of the same theme, and that's quite an interesting.
Were they quite different, or?
A lot of the words were the same, but the same approach, trying just keeping the lines in the song shorter. Generally,
right, and making it scan to a more regular meter, I think.
That's true. Yes, yeah. Although since I've been doing that, I mean, listen to especially modern songs you hear on the radio and that, which is not necessarily the sort of music I like, but it's made me listen to songs more.
Right.
And some of them, it's almost as if the words are not. I'm trying to say what I mean. There doesn't seem to be much attempt sometimes to actually make them scan or anything. They just lay the words over the top of whatever music it is.
No, exactly. Yeah, they have that going on it's almost like background music to a prose reading or something.
Yes,
which people do sometimes.
Yes,
it's a strange turn, which I did, because like hip hop, I don't know how much hip hop you listen to, but in the 80s, it was a big thing. And at that time, hip hop had those very, very rigid meter and rhyme to them, that people parodied a lot. And sometimes I hear hip hop from the last few years, and they do have these long lines that kind of vary the meter and vary the beat too. And it's quite a development. I enjoy some of it, and some of it less so, but some of it's really brilliant, I think.
Yeah. No, I've not delved into hip hop or rap very deeply in terms of music I buy or download now and listen to, but I've always enjoyed a lot of it when I hear it, because it is generally poetic.
Right. Well, we'll probably talk about some other musicians who've lived in Houston because I'm from Houston. But one of the two of the musicians who are from Houston right now are Lizzo and Megan the Stallion. And my wife Sarah is a big fan of Lizzo, and so I probably wouldn't have come across her music, but Sarah listens to it, and she is amazing. She's she plays the flute. She does. I think she's studied classically. She does everything from rap to great stuff. And she mixes it all in. It's not the kind of thing I would have predicted happening in the genre based on Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five back then.
No,
Although they were great too, but it's
yeah,
very different. What
but it's yeah, demonstrates how all genres sort of move on to some extent
and evolve. Yeah.
Yeah.
Should we talk then, since that sort of lays the background, I guess, talk like who do you think are the masters of songwriting that you would want to emulate? Or
well, I think you and I share a sort of I don't like the term, but most people would probably see it as Americana. It's not a term I like. It's too general, and country rock doesn't do it justice either. I mean, if I mention some names, the two of my favorite songwriters and musicians would be Joe Ely and Steve Earle, and both. I mean, I see them as really as rock musicians, with a country flavor. But when somebody says, well, what kind of music do they sing? And it's very difficult to describe it to somebody unless they know them. So they're two of my all-time favorite singers, performers, songwriters as well, because they generally write their own songs. Although when you mention Joe Ely, you have to include Butch Hancock and Jimmy Dale Gilmore, part of their first band, who wrote equally good songs, in fact.
Yeah, I know Dallas is one of the great songs, and I know when Jimmy Dale Gilmore, he wrote it, when he plays it, always says, "This is a Joe Ely song that I wrote." That's how he introduces it.
Yes, yeah.
Joe Ely did make it famous.
Yeah.
No, I think Rockstar is great. I mean, I was introduced to Joe Ely, ironically, even though I'm from Texas and Joe Ely was from Texas, I was introduced to him by a British band. I went to see The Clash in 1979, and they were touring with Joe Ely, and that's how I discovered Joe Ely and Butch Hancock and Jimmy Dale Gilmore was through the punk rock scene at the time. And otherwise I wouldn't have known about him, but I followed him from 1979 and that show all the way up to now. I've listened to everything he's done, and he's still brilliant. So totally agree with you.
Well, that was about the first time I heard them, late 70s. Well, I think Flatlanders, which was the first band, came out early 70s. But Joe Ely, I think, started producing his own albums from about 78.
Yeah.
So I was very fortunate to listen to the kind of radio program in England that played Joe Ely's music. So that's when I first heard him.
I was lucky enough, I suppose. He came through Houston regularly, so I've seen him in various venues and various assortments of musicians. I saw him with the Flatlanders. I've seen just Joe Ely and Butch Hancock sit down and chat about the songs, so I feel very fortunate.
Yeah, no, I am envious. Yes, I'd love to have seen him in either Houston or particularly Austin or somewhere like that.
Any favorite songs from Joe Ely?
One of his rock songs I like is Fingernails, and I just love the lyrics of that. I keep my fingernails long so they click when I play the piano. That's
and he changes the names of the places at will, I think.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Well, he'll come back from Capistrano or Alabama or any place he wants.
That's right. I actually, when I thought about the songs I liked, particularly, I mean, I like a lot of his songs off many of his albums, but I sort of picked out 2 or 3, and they turned out to have been written by Butch Hancock or Jimmy Dale Gilmore,
Yeah.
right? Really. Butch Hancock, She Never Spoke Spanish to Me. It's one of my favorites. And If You Were a Bluebird. But Jimmy Dale Gilmore, you mentioned Dallas. Treat Me Like a Saturday Night.
Oh,
And
yes.
Tonight I Think I'm Going to Go Downtown. They're just examples of great songs, I think.
Right. I had a similar thing for confusing these three men because they do each other's songs. One of my favorite Jimmy Dale Gilmore songs was "You're Just the Wave, Not the Water," and then it turned out Butch Hancock wrote it. So
Yes, but yeah, that's another one I should mention that actually, since I started thinking about this, is from the same area as Terry Allen, who did an album in, I think it was around about the same time, late 70s, early 80s, called Lubbock on Everything. And that's got some great songs on it. I know, and he's done other albums since in a similar sort of vein.
I'm not familiar with Terry Allen, so that one's new to me. I have to check it
right.
out.
But yeah, very much the same sort of vein.
So what do you think makes their songs great? The storytelling, not all of those were storytelling songs, but some of them
No,
were.
they're not. And in fact, I know some of the I think some of the songwriters that you've mentioned to me before, like I mean, Townes Van Sant is recognized as a great songwriter, and he certainly is. And his songs are more storytelling songs, if you like, a bit like others like Guy Clark and people like that. And I think some you've mentioned before, Jerry Jeff Walker and Ray Wiley Hubbard. And so yeah, I like storytelling songs, but I also like the sort of the rhythmic, the more the rhythmic country rock songs, if you like.
Right.
And I think one of the things that made me, I suppose, everybody has different reasons why they have favorite singers and favorite musicians. And I think in the it's partly the tone of the voice that you like, and the rhythm of their music. And that's probably why I've listened more to, say, Steve Earle and Joe Ely than I have to Townes Van Sant and Jerry Jeff Walker, perhaps. I think I perhaps just cottoned onto their voices and the rhythm of their music more.
No, well,
Not because the songwriting was any better, but
Joe Ely definitely has a very pleasant voice to listen to, and also great rhythms. I mean, in the early days, he did a lot of rockabilly and that kind of stuff. I mean, it's danceable, fantastic stuff for sure. I really, some of my best memories are his live shows from 79 to 82 or 83, around there. There was one time I saw him later. He was a little bit older, not as old as now. I don't remember when this was, maybe the 90s. And he played at a little club in Houston. And it was just him, but there was a piano on stage and he was doing fingernails, and he would run over and like bang on the end of the piano with his guitar to try to get that piano part that it has in it. And he got so frustrated, he finally said, "Could somebody play this piano?" And this guy in the audience just jumped on the stage and played the song. It was really great. He did the whole thing. It was fantastic.
amazing.
Yeah, but he was always really open that way too, and interacted with people in such a great way. So.
There is I mean, there's a couple of other songwriters in different. So going back to your question actually about the songs themselves, I do like songs that tell stories and sort of set out. But as I say, I've always loved rockabilly. That was my first love anyway, really. But another songwriter that I particularly like is a much more recent one, well, mid-80s, is Mike Scott of the Waterboys. And it fits in with what we were saying about the actual songwriting, because his songs are not short, snappy songs. His songs are more like poems put to music, and I love his the lyrical and the lyrical content and poetic content of his songs.
I don't know. I'm not familiar with his either. Is he American too, or?
No, he's Scottish.
Hmm.
The band, if you heard them, you may think they were Irish. They
Hmm.
have an Irish sound, and they used to have I think her name was Sharon Shannon, who played fiddle with
Hmm.
them. I mean, he goes under the name the Waterboys, but it's basically Mike Scott and his music. But they've done country albums and sort of folk albums, but they're also a very tight rock band. So, but in terms of the songwriting, his are certainly not short. Not all of them. Some are, but not all, a lot of them are more poetic. In fact, he even did an album called An Appointment with Mr. Yeats, which is nothing but W.B. Yeats songs put to music,
Oh, wow.
poems put to music.
Excellent. Now I have something, a couple of people that have to go check out and listen to. The
Right.
main two people in that vein, I think I know. Well, yeah, Richard Thompson and we'll just leave it at Richard Thompson.
Yes, but yeah, no,
Uh,
yeah. Yeah, so I mean, obviously Richard Thompson is somebody I've been aware of all my life. I've never really listened deeply to his music other than what I've heard as it comes along.
he
But
has two songs that, well, so I think everybody knows 52, Vincent Black Lightning. And then he has a song called Cold Kisses, which I don't think is one of the ones that everyone loves, but I love it very, very much. It's
right.
just kind of about jealousy. Christy Moore was the other person I was thinking of.
Oh yes, Christy Moore. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So no, I do like Christy Moore and his songs. In fact, that wouldn't be dissimilar to Mike Scott, his sort of
I
music
was
and
thinking from the
yeah,
description, that was what
yeah,
made me think of him, even though I couldn't grab his
yeah,
name right away.
yeah, yeah.
Very good. I was wondering about that because we talked about, we sort of started with that Americana thing, and I was wondering about what British songwriters that would fit in. And so here, I mean, there's one for sure.
Yeah,
And- and-
actually, there aren't many British songwriters on my notes that I've made about songwriting. There are no, that's probably the only one actually. Um,
I had, it's a different vein, but I actually had at least one other British person, Pauline Black from the Selector, ska music,
ah,
but she did write those songs, a lot of them anyway, and
right,
I'm quite fond of both what
yeah,
she was able to say in her music and make it catchy and make everybody love it and
ah.
just sing along and be happy to lyrics that were really quite depressing. I
Well,
thought
that's quite an art, yeah. So,
I thought she's
yeah.
an amazing songwriter. I was another thing we talked about. I was going to mention this. Is thinking someone wrote a song and then finding out they didn't. And you mentioned it with Joe Ely and Butch Hancock and those guys. One of the big ones I had that I thought another great, he is a great British songwriter, is Elvis Costello. But
Yes.
I always rated him as a great songwriter largely on the strength of the song Good Year for the Roses, only to find out it was written by Jerry Chestnut, who is
Yes.
also a great songwriter, but not Elvis for sure.
No, no, that's right. It was an older song. I don't know whether I think I remember hearing recordings of other
Oh,
more crooners.
George Jones did it. So
Yeah.
once George Jones has done it, you're sort of established. But I saw an interview with Jerry Chestnut, and he said, they told him someone was going to do this recording, and he said, "Who is it?" And they said Elvis Costello. He's like, "Never heard of him." And they said, "Oh, he's a punk." I don't think Elvis Costello should have ever been described as a punk,
No.
honestly. But he said, "Oh, I don't know." Then he said the first royalty check came in, and he opened it up, and he said, I think I like punk music." So,
No,
point out.
you're certainly right. Elvis Costello should certainly be up there with the best British songwriters. I have thought of another one that I should mention, and I always enjoyed his music, and that was Ian Dury.
Oh yes, yeah.
Um, So he wrote clever songs, I think.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah,
I was quite a fan of the Blockheads as well.
yeah. Another very tight rock band.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
And that, if you've got a tight band like that behind you, just like Mike Scott has, that really, well, lays the foundation for it, doesn't it?
I know. Then you could put anything you want in the lyrics,
Yeah,
and people will listen to it. Although sometimes I think people listen to the lyrics, but they don't take it in. You have this nice beat and everything, and you don't necessarily focus on the how dark the lyrics are, because
well,
the lyric could be pretty dark.
yeah. No, I mean, there are some songs I've listened to all my life, 50, 60 years, and then if I happen to hear the lyric more clearly, or see the lyric written down, I thought, well, that's what they were singing all these years.
They're horrible. Well, another songwriter I like is Stephen Page of a Canadian band called Bare Naked Ladies, and he had a lot of personal problems, which I mean, it broke up the band, and he's talked about it and written about it, and he has songs about it. And but one of my favorite Bare Naked Ladies songs was Old Apartment, but the song really implies a lot of violence in his intimate relationship, and
Right.
I mean, the song has kind of a dark feel to it, but I think you listen to it, and it's a pop song, and you sit down and read the lyrics for that song, and he has a couple of others that go really, really to bad places, and and you just kind of sing along. Well, I guess it's the same with like Karen Carpenter.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
mean, there was a lot of depression in those pop songs that she was doing, and people were just quite happy. I guess anybody, I don't know who might listen to this podcast, but they may not be old enough to remember when Karen Carpenter was the top of the pops. But
But you're right. On the surface, they were sweet pop songs, largely good songs, good, well-written
for
songs.
sure.
But as you say, the lyrical content perhaps didn't always fit the mood of the song.
I like it when people do cover versions and they go back and kind of capture the true meaning of the song, try to capture that in the
Mm,
mood of the music they're playing, and gives it a whole new veneer.
yeah. No, yes, I appreciate that too. I do I do like people doing a completely different interpretation of a classic hit from the past. And
Right.
yeah, I can't think of an example at the moment, but I'm sure I heard one the other day, and I thought I do like that. But yeah,
Well, I heard who did it? Keith Caputo, I think, did Girls Only Want to Have Fun, and just slowed it right down, and I think did it in a minor key and everything. And it's downright spooky when you hear it,
yeah,
this bouncy pop song, and you kind of change the key and slow it down, and it suddenly becomes a scary kind of song.
yeah, yes, and just sort of change the mood of the song when the song's the same. It's yeah,
Right, right.
yeah. Um, I don't know whether you want me to mention any more names. I mean, well, there's one. I suppose a couple of early ones I should say that are up there. Always been up there amongst my favourites are Hank Williams and Woody Guthrie. Um, Something like Pretty Boy Floyd. I mean, the
Mm.
lyrics to that. Some people will. Some people will kill you with a. I'm not getting the lyrics right now, but I know the line. I mean, so yeah, some will kill you with a 6-gun, and some with a fountain pen. That's right.
Mm. Oh,
But
yeah.
never seen a banker drive a family. Never seen an outlaw drive a family from their home. That's the verse I'm thinking of.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
But yeah,
Woody Guthrie's fantastic. I don't know if you know the Irish American band Dropkick Murphys,
I know of them. I don't
but
really know the music, but
so they met Woody Guthrie's daughter, I think, or granddaughter, and she gave them access to the library of his just writings, just random writings. I think things that he'd written down that weren't published or recorded, things. And so they've just released an album of I think 10 songs that where they've taken his lyrics and written songs around the lyrics and used his words in the song. So it's called This Machine Still Kills Fascists. And
Great.
I've only heard that. I think they've only released 2 singles so far. They haven't released the entire album yet, but it looks like it should be pretty good. I mean, the fact that his family trusted them with the
Yes.
archives sort of speaks to what quality to expect, I think. So
Yeah. Oh, I have to look out for that one.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
One thing I've noticed is that there aren't many female songwriters that feature in my list, but one that does is Emmylou Harris.
Oh,
I mean, she may not be foremostly known as a songwriter, but along with Graham Parsons, I mean, they wrote some great songs. And Boulder to Birmingham was a great song from her, I think, after Graham Parsons' death. And so I should put a female artist in there.
I think there's another one we both know. I mean, you have to tell me if you don't know her, but she's on my list, is Lucinda Williams.
Yes, I do know. I have a couple of albums by her, and yeah, they are also great songs.
And one you may not know, but that I actually got to meet her at a house concert, and she's gone. She relates well to it's Amy Speace, not to try to build any tension. Her name's Amy Speace, and she's a great songwriter already, and she's just gone back to university and studied poetry. So she started publishing poetry. She kind of went the opposite way of what a lot of people do, writing poetry and then trying to do songs. She started out writing songs and now is studying poetry seriously.
Yeah.
But she is an incredible songwriter. Although we saw her in Manchester, and she couldn't seem to get the word Mancunian down at all. She just kept wanting to say Manchurian, and we're like, that's not what it is.
Yeah.
But other than that,
a little different.
other than that, one weakness, she's absolutely brilliant as a songwriter and a singer. She has a song called How to Sleep in a Stormy Boat, which is, I talked to her about it and told her, for me, it spoke well to people coping with grief. And she said, well, that's a breakup song. And I said, but that is grief. But I think anybody going through kind of being separated from someone, whether by them breaking up or by death or something, it's a fantastic song. I actually used to volunteer with a bereavement center, and I listened to that song a lot while I was there. It was sort of hear people's stories of what they're going through, and then listen to that song, and it was quite touching.
What was the name, Amy?
Amy Speace. It's just like peace with an S on it. So every time I try to type her name, autocorrect changes it to peace, and I have to go back and fix it.
I'll have to try and look out for it. Yeah.
Yeah, she's really quite a talent. And we didn't mention Nancy Griffith. There's another
yes,
female songwriter, and I guess Gillian Welch.
Yeah, no, it's this is the thing, when you start thinking about it, there are so many.
They all come back. Yeah, they are out there. Ruthie Foster is another one. All mine are mostly Texas people, but there's two.
Yeah. But yes, there's plenty to listen to.
Absolutely.
A few we've missed off, but I've enjoyed the conversation, and we've covered a few areas. So.
I enjoyed it too. It's very good, and thanks for talking to me. And maybe we can do it again, and especially after we've maybe written a few more songs, we can talk more about that process.
Yeah, that would be good. I mean, it's something, as you know, I'm trying to do at the moment, but generally my songwriting consists of writing lyrics and letting other musicians and singers put them to their music and singing, rather than force my vocal talents on anybody. So that's where it's at the moment, just writing lyrics and hoping somebody else can use them.
Well, I mean, Townes Van Zandt, I know you said you don't necessarily enjoy listening to him, but there are so many beautiful recordings of his songs by other people.
Absolutely.
So that's the great, if you could be a great songwriter, that's all you need.
I think the really good songwriters, that's where they are.
I've never seen a recording of Jerry Chestnut doing that song, for example. I'd much rather listen to Elvis Costello, but that's not to say that if you don't give it a try, you might be surprised. You may like the results. So.
Yeah,